Good evening. It is 6:30 p.m. on December 5th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by asking Mr. Kilgore to come to the podium and explain the waiver of notice. Good evening. It is 6:30 p.m. on December 5th.
And you're back.
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Again.
Got it? Yep.
Madam President, what we have here is basically a waiver of notification, especially since we were in a situation where Mr. Shaw was not present at the last meeting, just to be sure that everyone, basically the way the rule works, if everybody shows up, then we've all waived that we didn't receive notice. But Greg has already been gracious to sign that and forward it on, and it's just better form to have it signed. We like to keep that as a record, that everybody at least was notified.
Okay, so we're passing this down so everyone can sign, and I see Councilmember Shaw's signature as well. We just hand that back to you or Lisa, or?
I'll hand it to Lisa.
Okay, great. Okay, and then we will commence with the roll call.
Mayor Finley.
Here.
Councilmember Robleski. Here. Councilmember Spear. Here. Councilmember Powell.
Here.
Councilmember Shaw. Council President Bartlett.
Here.
Councilmember Denzine.
Here.
Councilmember Seifert.
Here.
Okay, our meeting is going to open with discussion on a matter that had been moved and seconded a week ago, Monday evening. We had a resolution that was introduced by the mayor, and we had a motion by Councilmember Robleski and a second by Councilmember Seifert. We have postponed and continued discussion twice, and now we are opening or reopening discussion on the matter that is before the council. We're going to start and let the mayor begin.
Okay, and do you want me to start with the legal side of things as we went through, or you want to come back to that? We have the architect here, and we want to talk a little bit about the functionality that then ties together with a couple of slides that are the actual floor plan where you can see those a little bit better.
Probably to start with the legal part to make sure that everybody's satisfied that we've met all requirements.
Yeah, so as the question came, have we met all criteria in you guys leading the bid? I think we researched that, and Brian, if you want to talk to that real quickly as far as making sure that the city that we have met all criteria that we have for bids such as that.
I did report to the council with an email that basically I did have the chance to go through and look at the entire bid manual. I was able to look at each of the actual ads that were put in the Huntsville Times, the Birmingham News, Mobile Register, Decatur Daily, and the Madison paper. And I was able to confirm that these did properly run. Since this was a public works project of over $500,000, they have to run for 3 consecutive weeks in basically the largest publication in the county, along with 3 other publications outside the state, and they did 4, in fact. So as far as the notice of the bid, that was proper. Then I had a teleconference after going through all the all the paperwork, all the bids, and was able to confirm with Mr. Van Person that they had actually followed all the criteria. Confirmed with Steve Smith as far as when they opened the bids, how they opened the bids, and also reviewing it to make sure that the awarded bidder was in fact the lowest responsible bidder according to the bid tabulations. So after a thorough review, discussion with NOLA, I was able to determine that the bid was in fact valid, and there was nothing there that gave me any heartburn as far as whether or not they followed all procedure.
Mr. Kilgore, could you explain why the date that was placed in the bid packet and what ran in the advertisement was October 13th, I believe, and then we opened the bid on October 25th?
Yeah, I believe there was some questions at the last council meeting about the bid packet having the date of October 13th. However, the bids were not actually provided until October 25th. What happened there was we had a pre-bid certification where all these bidders went through, and they actually went to a pre-bid meeting. And during the pre-bid meeting, they had asked and requested that it actually be postponed. Under these circumstances, as I understand from the the Public Works competitive bid law, that if you have pre-certified, if you're required to be pre-certified, you go through that process, then you're required to be at a pre-bid meeting, then at that point you have basically, no one else can basically come in and bid on it at a later point. So us, with that criteria, they were able to postpone it by agreement amongst all the bidders and the city at that point. So there was no impropriety there. There was nothing wrong with it as far as the bid law is concerned.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. And then one of the other requests that we had, that we wanted to make sure, was to show a couple slides that were more granular as far as what was actually, the floor plan and why certain things were in the community center. So council has a sheet in front of them. I wanted to go ahead and go through a couple of those things before you actually show the slides. You know, one of the things, and going back to it, I hadn't paid, you know, the appraisal of that entire building and acreage was $3,850,000. And when I put the average 15% not likely to use, as I went through these questions right here, we talked about community usage versus non-usage. So for these respective questions, 85% of the folks who answered the survey said that they would be using a community center facility, while only 15%, and that's an average of the questions, said that they wouldn't. I thought it was interesting when they came and asked about usage of the senior center or Dublin. Over 50% of the applicants said they had not been to either at that time for whatever reason. So more folks in the survey talking about the things said that they would for a community center. So in each one of these, and part of what Rob will talk about is, you know, first, what adult classes are you looking for? They were looking for arts, crafts, drawing, and painting, more exercise classes, pottery and ceramics, wood crafting, and then gardening and horticulture. When you ask about indoor amenities, it was fitness equipment, a cafe, lounges for game room, ping pong, pool, and that kind of thing, art studios, wood shop, and gym games. Outdoor amenities, they were looking for walking track and trails, an outdoor entertainment facility, kind of something that would have concerts and movies, additional things to do. They knew that there was a pool there, so they were looking to renovate that pool. And then a community garden was one of the things that they talked about. Now, they also had in there other amenities like pickleball, volleyball, and a splash pad. And one of the things that we're talking about is the inside and the actual building itself. And now, with the purchase of the Sunshine Oaks facility or acreage, and when we close Hexagon, I think that's one where council is going to be looking for us to come up with a game plan on the outside amenities and the time frame in the CIP world for basically the outside portion of the community center, Sunshine Oaks, and Hexagon. And then the other big part about this that we talked about was, for the first, especially a couple of years, you know, the meeting space that's critical for our community when it comes to the community, for the Enrichment Center, the Wellstone Mental Health, National Children's Advocacy Center, and then the American Legion, to have additional meeting space, some of which they don't have to go all the way into Huntsville. They can have, you know, Madison meetings in a Madison facility. So that was off of the survey that we did with the top things that they were looking for. And so I'll turn it over to you if I could, and let you give a couple of more granular slides that correspond hopefully with some of what we talked about.
Okay, if we can have the slide. So just to remind you of the last time I was here, the outdoor of the facility, we basically have two buildings on the campus, the large sort of X-shaped building in the middle, and then there's a smaller building off to the right-hand side. The main entrance of the building, if you've been to the building, you know it's right in the middle, and so we wanted to maintain that as an obvious entrance. We wanted to improve parking. The only new parking we're adding is everything to the right of that middle driveway, because there wasn't good accessible parking on campus. And if you had a bus, for instance, and you were going to stop and pick up or drop off, you know, a group, we wanted to give a bus drop-off as well as accessibility parking right next to the building. So that's what you see on the right-hand side. We added about a little over a dozen parking spaces, and then a loop road space to park buses, as well as they could drive the bus up and around that loop. And then up towards the building, between those two buildings, you see some blue paint striping for accessible parking spaces there. We also have some accessible parking spaces. They don't show up in this rendering, but over in the left-hand side, because both of those parking lots are up higher at sort of the building level. If you've been to the site, that lower parking area is about 4 or 5 feet below the floor level. Getting back to the main entrance, we've got a curved wall sign you can see near the flagpole, just to give good visibility and naming for the building. Then the existing main entrance, we're embellishing that by actually extending it out just a little bit further than it currently is. But keeping that as the main entrance. To the right, you'll see at the lower right-hand wing that extends out, that's the area where some senior center activities are, and we're giving them a separate entrance as well as a covered area there. And then the courtyard you see to the right with all the greenery, that's an area that we've sort of dedicated for future development of gardening and things like that. So it's a green space. It can be used for either outdoor concerts with, say, a string quartet, and just sort of a chance for people to sort of walk around and take a moment in a green space. And then the building to the right, I'll show you in floor plan that those have some of the more fitness activities in it. Also, if you look towards the middle back, you see a small pavilion with some radiused stepped seating area. That's for more outdoor activities where you need a hard surface. So we've got a large patio area there right now. That area currently has a small swimming pool in it. We did investigate whether that pool could be refurbished, and unfortunately it just was beyond repair. And so that area is a large patio area, perhaps a children's birthday party or something like that. You could bring in a bouncy house or something, activity like that. Or again, we have a small pavilion there if you wanted a musical event in that space as well. And we have access that comes around the end of the building to those parking lots. The next slide is a floor plan that has about the same orientation. So if you can kind of remember where these entrances are, thank you. So again, if you look down in the middle lower section of the X-shaped building, that's the main entrance. Again, we expanded the canopy to give you a little bit more covered area. You enter in the middle through a set of double doors into that kind of a large area. The yellow or gold color indicates circulation zones, so you can kind of see the walkways through the building. But it starts off with a fairly large lobby. One of the things we wanted to do with this building that it currently does not have is give it good intuitive wayfinding. You can walk in the building and you sort of know where you need to go. If you've ever been in the building, it's just a maze through there right now, and you can get lost. So we're knocking out some sheetrock walls that are currently right there at the entrance that are some small offices, and we're opening that up. That area will be equipped with furniture that allows you to meet friends in those locations before you go on to other functions in the building. Children could do their homework on other parts of furniture in that area while they're waiting for a ride or pickup or just being dropped off. To the left, you'll see a small pinkish area. That's a small conference room right near the entrance that people could reserve. Behind that, with the two rectangles in it, is the billiard room or pool room right off the main lobby, but it's also off the senior center area. Continuing on with the community center, there's sort of a curved wall that leads around. That's a media area where you'll be able to do video gaming, whether it's a game sitting down or whether it's a more interactive game like a Wii game or so, where you can stand up and actually play a game of golf inside. Then to the middle back, you see a small blue curved area. That's a reception desk. So people can come in and they immediately see that if they have questions as to where to go. or where to sign up for something, they can go to that reception desk or information desk. And to the left of that is a light-colored space. That is the cafeteria. That has a kitchen off of it, but it's mostly a catering kitchen for food to be dispensed in. So all the blue in the lower left-hand corner, that's part kitchen and support spaces, as well as some administrative offices in that area and sort of an employee area. If you kind of go to the middle of the cruciform, at that point, you have 3 corridors you could go down to. If you go off to the left, and that'd be the upper left in that X shape, you've got 4 multi-purpose rooms. The 2 in the middle are actually connected with a folding partition, so they can be either configured as classroom-sized spaces, or you can open up that folding partition so that those 2 spaces become one large space for larger group activities. Those all open out with glass walls into that back patio area that I mentioned earlier with the pavilion. So they all have good exterior connection to outdoor space, as well as good daylighting within them. We moved the corridor to the outside wall. Right now, the current building just has a corridor right down the middle of the space. So you have no connection to outside windows in the existing building. We've moved the corridor to the left wall and opened up windows, so the corridor will have good daylighting, and it freed up space to make the rooms larger than they currently are. When you go to the wing to the upper right, there's a conference room right in the middle. The lighter colored pink area is the first of the 2 ceramics rooms. That's a ceramic room that will be can used by the community center, but it also can be used by the senior center. It's connected up and to the right with a kiln area that connects to the second ceramic room. So you've got 2 ceramic rooms feeding into a common kiln area. And behind that is an art room for things like painting and drawing as requested in the survey. And then the end room, the large room at the end of the upper right-hand wing is the large music room. We wanted to put that a little bit further back, a little bit more isolated, but it also has great opportunities to open up into both the garden courtyard as well as the patio courtyard. Those are glass walls that can be opened up to just make the space wide open and flow. And then the area in the lower right-hand wing with the sort of blue shaded rooms are more multi-purpose rooms. This is the area that would be mostly senior center activities for multi-purpose rooms, but obviously you can see corridors that connect to the community center. So flexibility was really important in the design as to how these spaces you can get the most use out of them. And then as you go all the way down to the end of that wing, you see a smaller lobby area. Again, opportunity for people to wait as they're waiting on friends to meet as they're coming in, and a door off to the rear of that one that goes into the garden area with sidewalk paths that lead you to the building, the L-shaped building to the right. In the L-shaped building, in the lower section of blue, those are more maintenance spaces, support spaces. We've got electrical rooms, maintenance room for staff to use. And then the little bit darker shaded pink room above is the wood shop. That's currently a wood shop, and so we're repurposing that same room for a similar function. Right above that is a multipurpose room for sort of organized fitness. It might be a yoga classroom, it could be a Pilates mat classroom, or even kickboxing. It can hold all those sort of functions. And each of those rooms have individual restroom within their sort of suite in there. At the corner of the L-shaped space, the larger square area, that's the current gymnasium that they had on campus, and we're just sort of repurposing it. We're padding the walls. We're putting in new adjustable goals. to be an inclusive space so that all ages, all forms of physical abilities can use that space for that type of activity. To the left of that, you see a small yellow area again with a blue support area. The yellow is sort of the small lobby space. You can enter there and go back into that gymnasium. Straight ahead, you've got restrooms with shower facilities in there. And then to the left, that smaller square space, that's a fitness area that would have fitness equipment like treadmills and bicycles and the like in that. So, trying to think of what I haven't covered.
What's the little blue area right outside the fitness area?
Oh, right in that corner, that's the office. I'm
Okay,
sorry. So
very good.
That's a control point.
Sure.
When you enter there, there'll be somebody at the desk that can point you, or they can kind of control activity going on in the gym or the fitness area.
Okay, good.
If you need to check out a basketball
Mm-hmm.
in that location as well. So, good point.
Is there a chance that the gym will be regulation size for, no? Okay, okay.
It fit in floor plan, but it's not technically high enough for true pickleball
Okay,
aficionados.
okay. Yeah. Mm.
And any questions that you might have?
I know you have one.
I have a couple of questions just about the facility. First, what did you find with respect to the HVAC unit, or is it gonna have to be replaced? What's the air filtration like there?
Yeah, so the building, as you probably recall, was built really, two wings of this were dormitories. So it was very small usage, fewer people, and they used a fairly simple mechanical system, just split systems like you'd have probably in your house. Using these functions, they have aged out by the time we got there, but even replacing them wasn't optimum to support the larger crowds that we might have in these buildings. So we replaced the HVAC system with an appropriate sized system.
And what kind of air filtration in light of COVID and everything else that we're dealing with? There's improvements that have been made to...
There are. We use a higher grade filter for most of those, and I'd have to look into the mechanical system and whether we added ionization to this one or not. I'm sorry, I don't recall. But there are several things that we have taken that are sort of low-hanging fruit that can accommodate a lot of that.
Currently, we had a lot of our Christmas decorations stored there, and probably a whole lot of other things that we were storing there. Is there room for storage in this layout?
You know, we tried to incorporate storage for the space itself. So in each one of those multi-purpose rooms, you see, 3 on the senior center side. I was thinking one was the 4th one, but that's a sewing room that I forgot to mention next to the ceramics room. And then the 4, each one of those has a closet space within it for tables and chairs for that space. And then by the music room, up in the upper right-hand corner across the hall, you see a long, narrow room with double doors. That storage, again, we're assuming for tables and chairs that can support the whole facility. There's not a lot of space for things that aren't necessarily here, like Christmas decorations for the city or so. Those will probably have to find a new home.
And this,
Especially as you continue to buy more.
well, the downtown does look great,
It does
though,
look
doesn't
really
it?
pretty.
Okay. Sewing room, so that was something that was, I don't see it on the list, but is that something that was highly popular in the survey?
Yeah, that came back to us, that they'd really love to see a sewing room. And we toured some other facilities, and that seemed to be a popular space, sewing/quilting room.
Quilting, okay.
Yeah, it's
All right.
multi-purpose.
All right, and then I had a question just overall in terms of what we had anticipated this to come in at, and then it comes in over 11 million. Why is this so expensive? It's a I mean, you're not having to build it from the ground up.
And I think I may have mentioned this last, or Steve did, if you were to build this facility, from the ground up, you would probably be spending $5 to $7 million more than you are, currently in the renovation. The construction costs, I mean, we're obviously in very volatile times with the construction market. And, you know, some of the initial numbers, I know, the city had a construction manager originally kind of helping them. But there were things that I think, as we went through the design phase, we'll call it scope creep, things that we kind of discovered that, oh, this is going to be a little bit more than people may have thought. The building did not have very good energy construction, and now we're under an energy code, so we've got to provide extensive insulation, not only in the roof, but the walls. We had a set of drawings from the original job, but the person who was building this building was also the contractor, building it himself, or a division of his business. And not everything was built the way it was depicted in the drawings, so sometimes we had some surprises when we went out and started looking at things. But also, as we were looking at the building, you know, one of the things that was reinforced in the design, and as we were trying to, as we were developing the design, was coming back in the surveys, is the request for daylighting. Number one, they wanted good daylighting within the rooms. Number two, they wanted to make sure the building did not look like a detention facility. And so we could address both of those issues with the same solution, is opening up windows on the front of the building. And I think I showed you some renderings last time, where we took a lot of the masonry wall out and replaced it with glass. When we looked at the structure of the building, we found that wasn't as simple of a task as we would have hoped, and so we had to add some reinforcing in order to do that. But I think that's going to make the difference in the building with the amount of daylight and just the feel of the space. So a lot of factors, but we're finding that even general contractors are shocked at some of the pricing they're getting from their own subcontractors. We bid a project about 9 years ago, fire station for Huntsville, and it was a prototype building. We're now doing that same prototype on Burr Green. 9 years later, if you look at inflation trends, you would think that it would run about 100 to 150% the cost, double the cost. It came in at triple the cost. Exact same builder won the bid, and we had competitive bidding on it. We also did a bank on Nance Road 4 years ago, and we're doing that same bank on County Line right now near James Clemens. 4 years later, also triple the price. So in the last 4 years, we're seeing construction escalation that is unlike any other inflation in any other business, as far as I know. So it's extremely volatile. Everybody has work. There isn't a very strong hunger factor in it. We blanketed, as we talked about our advertisements, we did an extra advertisement just to make sure we were blanketing the market and getting all the potential bidders, you know, within a 100-mile radius. We got 3 interested in 2 submitted bids, and the third one who backed out could not get an electrical or a mason bid on the day of the bid, so he backed out 50 minutes before the bid. Interesting times.
So given the volatility of the cost of just doing a job like this, how likely is it that we're going to need to plan for more than 11 million?
You know, we have some contingency. We bid some unit pricing and some allowances that, in case we did encounter something that is unforeseen, is actually built into that price. And so some of the pricing is contingency. If that all comes back to you or to the city if it's not used.
Okay, so the concrete that I think Teddy had mentioned was
concrete cubic
seemed
yard.
A little high.
And it was, and I talked with the contractor about that, and he said that in looking at it, we asked him to, if we add 1 cubic yard, we request 1 more cubic yard, what will you charge for that? And he said he had to figure out whether he was gonna pump it or wheelbarrow it to the most remote spot he could find in the building, cut out whatever was, in the way of that concrete, place it, finish it, cure it out. And that is all inclusive of his general markup and everything in that. So that's not a price for the cost of the concrete coming off the truck. It's a price.
That wasn't way I want. It's basically, it's a all-inclusive cost, and it's a worst-case scenario. I mean, again, you know, if you see where that's at, you know, if you have to wheelbarrow that around, they have mechanical wheelbarrows. Literally, they get a wheelbarrow and they take it around. It's, you know, it's drivable, but.
Yeah, and you're not locked into that price if it's a simple task where we have a larger quantity, we can negotiate with him. That is the maximum amount that he could charge us. We can negotiate in all of those.
What's the percentage of contingency in there?
I think we're around 1%. It's probably closer to 2%.
Wow. So no change orders?
Yeah. Does it have an interior sprinkler system? Okay, good, 'cause I know it's an old building that probably wasn't required back then, but that's good, 'cause those are really expensive.
Yeah, because this is a sort of a place of assembly, we needed to have a sprinkler system.
Do we have any other questions for?
I guess question on outfitting of the facility, so pool tables, other amenities, are those included in the bid, or is that part of a separate ask at a later point? And I did read the bid, I just didn't memorize it.
Yeah, we're gonna handle the outfitting on our own. We already have a lot of furniture in place, a lot of desks, a lot of chairs. We will need to get some more.
Okay.
That's just for the construction aspect of it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Will it have a splash pad? No splash pad.
I think one thing in that report too, that came out, and they felt like Dublin was the better place if we were gonna put a splash pad anyway, versus this, that was in that, overall report.
Okay, any other questions for architect?
In general or pertaining to the?
Did you have anything else you were gonna present tonight?
I don't have anything else right now, unless you guys have any type of question, I'll gladly answer it.
Okay, anything you wanna ask?
Thank you for this presentation. It looks like you did put a lot of thought into it. I appreciate that. Looks like it's gonna be an amazing facility, right? My question comes down to being fiscally responsible and how do we pay for it? What funding is there in place? I know you went through your thing the other day, Steve. You know, when are we going to be able to go out and put together a complete capital improvement plan and then be able to bond it? How far out in the future is that decision for us?
Yeah, that's mine. So based on listening to you guys, what we will immediately be doing is starting the list of, from each department and each opportunity we have to put together that plan, and bring it to you as quickly as we can. It's a couple months out, at least, to be able to get all the different things that are in there. Examples would be the opportunities we have at, just take the 3 recreational facilities that we just talked about. Tie in with that, roundabouts, roads, and it's gonna take a couple months to get there. But that is, we've heard you loud and clear, and we will be putting that list together as quickly as we possibly can.
But that doesn't help for tonight's decision.
I wholeheartedly agree.
If we pass this tonight, we won't have to worry about those other decisions because there's not gonna be any money to do those things.
Well, that goes to my question, how long before we can go to a bond market again to get the funding for not only this, but for the roads and all the other things that we have on our wish list that will be provided in a couple of months?
All right, so we have a couple different ways that we fund things. when we funded the stadium, we went out and we got tax dollars that were not just only in Madison, right? We were expecting more people to come, spend money, hotels, those kind of things, and that's the way that was financed, okay? So there was a tax increase, not because we increased taxes, but because there was more availability of people to pay taxes. So that's one. We don't have that in this case. The other one is we would go out with a CIP list. In order for us to go out with a CIP list, we have to have some kind of income when we go out to the bond that says, okay, we have enough income out of whatever this revenue is that we can promise to pay this back. Okay, and that's where the CIP list comes in, and they will ask, okay, well, what are you buying? It's this list. That's your CIP list. That's
Right.
let me finish. So that's our credit card, right? So we got a credit card, and then we have our checkbook. We got cash sitting there, and that cash is sitting there because, in one instance, we paid off the bond over at Target. Well, money's been going into that, and there's other funds going into that bond. So we've built our checking book up, and it's also our, for lack of a better word, our emergency fund or reserve. We've built that up. The state requires us to have 10%, city ordinance to have 15%. We're typically running 30 or more, okay? And anything over that, generally at the end of the year, we do projects. I think last year we bought fire trucks and dump trucks and a couple of different equipments. That is the pot of money that you're stroking the check for. So that $11 million, you're basically stroking the check out of that. These other projects that I'm not going to call it a CIP list, it's just a list of projects, because we haven't sat down and done that. We've not had any work sessions to do that. We haven't had any sessions to say what are our goals with department heads, with mayor, with council. We haven't done that. But those projects would be funded by a CIP list. Again, we would have to go out and find a revenue source that allows us to go bond whatever that dollar amount is. But for this particular project, you're going to stroke a check for it, and there are no other projects that you will be able to stroke a check for until that fund either A, builds up, or B, you go out to do a CIP list.
My question continues to be, how far out in the future before we're going to be able to do a bond?
I'm sorry?
How far out into the future until we're going to be able to do a bond?
Well, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to know what you're going to spend the money on. You can't just go out and get a bond. So we'd have to have the CIP list, right?
I understand.
So how long does that take? I can't really speak to that. I mean, I can tell you we've tried for the last 2 years, but there's things that have happened. COVID's happened. We had department heads that weren't quite up to speed yet, and we weren't able to get those bids, to do that. Going forward, I think that's something that Mayor would have to answer as far as how long it takes to get the CIP list. Then the other thing we have to do is identify a source that we can fund it with. So those are two things that I can't tell you that I know that we can answer.
Yeah, so in the budget right now, and there's never play money, but I mean, as you go through with some of the projects, an example would be Madison Boulevard. In redoing all of Madison Boulevard, we received a $5 million, I won't say grant, but award, it's the proper word, from the state, but we were responsible for 20%. So we had $1 million that we put towards that. Hopefully that'll get done this year. There's other projects in there that we've added to it, whether it's engineering. So you've usually got $2 to $3 million right now in our budget that is used for projects that council, that we put in as the start with what the department heads say they need and council approves. Again, when you've heard me talk 2 different times now, part of what we've been working on as far as discussions with the schools, and any, whether it was Greg as president now, Renee as president, on the distribution of the half cent that has grown dramatically through, and that's going to take a CIP list if we're even going to think about doing that. So the CIP list was always coming and needs to come to be able to put that list of things we think we would need. The schools are doing the same thing right now on what they need. So it's going to be a couple months before you have that list, and as Teddy said, regardless of whether you do this or not, you're not going to be able to go out to the bond market until we find a different revenue source.
I think that this plan for the community center has been very thoughtful. It's a very thoughtful design. I think it is something that will, could potentially serve our whole community and be an inclusive center for our seniors and our special needs population. I think that's very, very well thought out. What I wish we had had time for was, or had taken the time for, was opportunities to show our community these plans and get more input from our community about, is this what you wanted? We did a survey. Granted, COVID happened, it stunk, it still stinks, but anyway, where we are is we think this is what our community wants, but we don't know for sure. If we do this, there are things that we may not be able to do. Will we be able to do our our fire station, our police substation over at the Hexagon project, even if we do this project?
That one, absolutely. Would you be able to put everything else back out on the Hexagon property, which all the recreation pieces, like a huge pickleball piece? No. But, we're buying the building for $4 million. It gives you another $1.2 million for renovation immediately, and that's for the fire side that you must do. That you must make sure they have livability, that side of it sprinkled, and all the things that have to be done. So, yes, part of that, as far as priorities, I have every confidence that that would be our number one priority, is making sure that Fire Station 4 is taken care of.
So we have money for the fire station and the police substation, but not the other recreational facilities at Hexagon.
Again, from a priority standpoint, that's going to be your all's decision once we come up with, the list of things, and then understand what's in the budget next year versus this year. It's always a fluid budget.
But some of those recreation projects are already there. The softball field's already there, the baseball field is there, so I don't know that would require any money. Excuse me.
Let me kind of talk about the budget a little bit, if y'all don't mind. So to answer your question, Karen, I know I don't think you've got the answer you've been seeking for.
No, I
The
haven't.
timeline will be based on council. I've already sent a good list out to you guys on recreational projects and some other projects that the mayor's office has going on. Really, the only thing that's not included is the road projects that we've discussed before. I think right now engineering's got about $8-9 million in road projects on this year's budget. That's including the $5 million that award from the state. So they're headed in a good direction in engineering. And what we try to do this year on this year's budget with engineering is get to the point where we're constructing some projects and we're designing other projects, and then we're creating projects that engineering has a huge need for in the hopper. Because ultimately, I think our goal for engineering would be to identify those projects as a group, and then each year have 4 or 5 that's in construction, 4 or 5 that's in design, and 4 or 5 that will be the next in the thing for design, then construction. That way we're designing one year, constructing the next year. So we're trying to get a flow in engineering with our funds that we have available. But all of that right now is in our general fund. So if you take that $5 million state award out from engineering, we still got $3 to $4 million that come from general fund for road projects on an annual basis. if you look at Corey's budget, we've already got $1 million, but probably a little bit over $1 million that comes from the general fund for Parks and Rec projects. So each department, although we look for CIP projects, we're still funding a lot of stuff with our general fund money. Teddy talked about our debt service fund. That's where we have a lot of money left over. That's the fund that Roger pays the bills with, or bond bills with. So he may pay $3 million a year in bond payments, but that debt service fund is bringing in $5, $6, $7 million a year. So that's not part of our general fund, but if you notice all the budgets that we passed, a lot of times there's a transfer in from our debt service. And so that's that money that we've set aside for bond payments that's very well over and above what our payments are. So instead of just keeping it over there in savings, we'll move it into the general fund so we can get more projects done. So Teddy's right, we've got multiple pockets of money coming in, but our general fund that you guys control still has $5, $6, $7 million a year that's flexible, and we can put towards projects if we feel the importance is there. So it's not like we have to go to the bond market to get a bond in order to do these other projects that we're talking about. We just got to reprioritize the general fund. Does that make sense? Because the general fund pays for salaries, it pays for all the stuff, our overhead. But even after our overhead's paid for, we still have a lot of discretionary funding that we can put towards projects. And now, to go back for the bond, that if we get the deal worked out with the schools, we split that half cent, and so that, I think that discussion is going to start taking place next year, January or so. So say that takes 2 or 3 months to kind of work through that. While Mayor and his team's working through the discussions with the schools, hopefully council will be able to be looking at CIP projects and you know, putting those in order on wants and needs and stuff like that. So hopefully all that would kind of line up. And then after everything's lined up and we feel like, okay, we've got a funding source, we've got our project list, let's call our bond folks and let's move forward if that's what you guys want to do. So the bond process is still going to take 3, 4, 5 months. Okay, so I would say at best, if everything was just shot right through, you're probably looking September, October when you get that bond money in, which is still a pretty good timeline considering the projects that you guys approve and want to move forward with. We still have to design them, which takes time. So you're in a good spot. Having this discussion now puts council in a good spot to kind of, because we got mid-year budget review coming up in a couple of months too. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of have a whole picture in just 2 or 3 months, because that gives time for the schools, that gives time for CIP discussions, that gives time for bond discussions and you know, where do we want to start designing and getting ready to move out. So 24 could be a very busy year for this city with a lot of projects moving forward if you so choose.
One of the things also that we had presented in some of the slides that we give on the budget process, we used to supplement our general fund budget with debt service money. So we would move it over, which means we would have less accruing in that bucket. We've weaned ourselves off of that now, where we brought zero money in from the debt service overflow that Steve was talking about. You pay your bonds, it's money that's left over. And I think Teddy and I were just talking, I think there's somewhere in the $7 to $8 million range right now that's sitting in that fund that could be used right now for larger projects if we needed to.
And it is felt that this community center is the way we want to then spend that money now? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, that's what you're hearing me say. I'm not sure you're hearing everybody else say it, but yes.
Okay. Because it sounds like that's kind of where we are. Is this where we want to put our money now because this is what we have available now? Do we want to put it towards this? Do we need to put it towards safety? Do we need to put it towards, you know, you said it was going to have $1.5 million left over. How much is it actually going to cost to renovate that area to turn it into a fire station. I understand the costs are much higher than people are anticipating. How much will it truly cost to turn that hexagon into a fire station and a police substation?
Yeah, I don't
Do
have,
we know that? Do we know that?
I don't have that that absolute number right now, no.
So the other part that we're faced with, guys, and I'm just giving you facts. I'm not gonna tell you how I'm voting till the very end, and I'll give you a reason of why I'm voting that way. But part of what we have, it's, you know, I talked to Renee about this, I don't know, sometime this week or last week, and it's you know, bird in the hand or one in the bush. We have a project that is shovel-ready that we can start, and we have some funds towards that to start that project. What those other things are out there, that we may come up with, and that we could be council, that we could be the mayor's office, and that we could be the department heads, which I won't even talk about that. But, so, whatever we decide, those projects are, those are not shovel-ready. Even if you wanted to start tomorrow, and we wrote a check for it, those projects are down the road because you have to get them bid, you know, we have to go through this process of, apparently there's no contractors out there that need work. So, you know, you're in a 100-mile radius, all these contractors would be bidding on those same projects. So, if Lee Builders is over there bidding on, they're doing that project, and that's the project they've set aside, the chance that they're gonna bid on another project, they have to do one thing. They have to go out and get more people to do that. And there may not be more people to get, so therefore those projects may not be ready. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. What I'm hearing is a lot of uncertainty.
A lot of what?
Uncertainty.
I'm just telling you.
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry,
No, I'm not,
okay.
not, you don't need to apologize. It's just a fact. We don't know what costs are gonna be. We have a lot of needs. I mean, it was literally, I just recently found out that we will be paying ALDOT services as we construct this bridge. Well, that is the first I've heard of that. How much money is that going to be? Do we know? Does anybody know?
I don't think AlDOT knows.
So how can we know that cost is coming. How do we then budget for it when we don't even know what it is? See, these are my concerns. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty on what things are gonna cost in the future. We know we want it, but do we know how much it's costing? No, we don't. We don't know what the school's gonna do. We do know that that tax is coming up, it's expiring. I've had people say, why are we even extending that? It was put together for the construction of a high school. That's been done. Okay, well, because there's need for more money, but I don't even know what that looks like legally, how we change from, it was for James Clemens, and now, as we redo it, it's something else. I don't know, I'm asking. Sure. Again, these are things that are uncertain.
Yeah.
Well, and Karen, and I'll say it this way, I've been part of this team in the city of Madison since 2008 that has felt the same way that you felt the entire time. And there's people before us and before us and before us. As this city has continued to grow, there's never been the money that we need for all of the projects, and it's always been a prioritization to make sure that we could get done what needed to get done for our employees, for the projects that are big, for the projects that are small, and it has never stopped. And it won't ever continue to stop, you know, it's just the way it is. And so where we are, and I agree with what Steve said, we're in the best position we've ever been to manage the growth that continues to come. Ever. And there are, you know, where Teddy said there's 3 or 4 different ways that, you know, from a funding standpoint, really there's 3, I guess, that you could pay for this. You know, part of, again, how valuable will Madison Visionary Partners be? As John said, well, if they get 0, then this is all on us. If they're successful with half of it, there's that much more. But the uncertainty that you are voicing is an uncertainty that has been part of this city for years and years and years. And there's good news that we have choices where we haven't had choices previously. So then it comes down to you ask, is this the project that you feel like is the project to go forth? And for multiple reasons, I would say yes. As our community has grown and matured, we're inadequate in that area, and Corey and team have told us for years now that our existing senior center needs to grow into a community center with active and activities for everyone. And this is a facility that can be used by everyone, including organizations that support our community for meetings in our community that directly correlate with safety and health that are critical. So we will always be focused on public safety first. Cybersecurity, making sure that they continue to have what they need to keep us safe, and we'll continue down that path. But we will always have that uncertainty, and that's part of a budget process that will help put all the lists together to get to you guys to make good decisions if you choose to pass this.
I understand there's always uncertainty. All right, it just seems at this point there's a lot of uncertainty based on economics of development, based on the economy in general, what we're looking at, and I am just trying to be very fiscally responsible to the voters at this point.
Absolutely.
And that's my position on it. So, like I said, it's a wonderful project. And I guess it comes down to us as a group. Is this a want or a need at this particular point in our history? And the economy could boom. I mean, we have a very good solid base. I'm not saying we're struggling at all, okay? And maybe by 2 years out, when this is ready, the money will be there, and we can go, okay, they made a good decision on that night. Everything did go forward, and it was a good decision. Or is it going to be they made a decision and it was the wrong way? But I don't know if we've really discussed it within ourselves as a body, where it is we are heading as a council. Yes, we want to do mostly roads. No, we really want to focus on safety. No, we really want to do community events. I mean, I'm all about community. I've never said anything different. This is very important to the city, this community, and I believe this facility would be really important to the city. But we have to weigh where we are. And I guess that's what I'm asking. And I don't know, right now we have to vote, and there's no really time for discussion unless we have that discussion as we're sitting here. God, we'll just vote on what we feel for right now. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I haven't been on council for a while. Learning to live in uncertainty, being comfortable, being uncomfortable is part of the job. I don't know how many years ago it was now, 4 years ago, trying to make the decision on a ballpark. You think 7 people decided. No, it's 4. There's 4 that decided. So having all the information, being able to make a 100% decision with probably 20% of the information, that's the reality. That's just it. Whether you got COVID, whether you got an economic boom or a downturn, nobody can tell the future. I mean, I think back in, what was it, 2005, man, market was booming. 2007, market, tanked. I don't think anybody in 2006 predicted it. So, I mean, what's going to happen in the future, I think best we can do is plan on what we have now, what we're projecting, understand what our estimates are, understand what our contingencies are, and make the best decision we can based on the limited information we know. And unfortunately, we got to be comfortable in that uncomfortableness, and that's hard. I don't know any other thing to tell you. It's hard, and you vote your conscience, and at the end of the day, time will tell. And you go based off the best information you know.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Is everyone ready for the vote, or do you have any other questions?
If this was voted down tonight and rebid, obviously the bid would expire, we'd have to rebid. The cost would probably go up slightly. But it would give us time to actually look at other projects that were needed in the community. It would give us time to get community input. It would, I don't know, I mean, the way this is done, it still bothers me a lot. And I don't know, I'm sitting here praying, asking God to tell me what I should do, because I have a whole lot of heartburn about this.
Question?
Go ahead.
If it is put out for a rebid, say, I don't know, what don't even know what time frame you would be looking at, 6 months? I don't know, Connie, what is your thoughts on?
I was thinking probably this summer.
Guys, y'all just heard Steve mention, I mean, you're looking at September, October before we're actually able to have the final list and what we think ranked, you know, A to Z of projects and having things ready to go. I mean, just reality.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have no idea what the vote's gonna be, you know, whatever. But I gotta just be honest, if it's voted down tonight, you're probably looking at, you know, 10, 11 months before you get something back out for bid like this.
And a higher percentage, going from 11 million to
Potentially,
12,
right?
13.
Hey, at the same time, market could tank, right? Don't know.
That would be bad. That would be really bad.
Best time to buy when the market's down.
Those that have concerns, what is it that you're most concerned about? Or, I mean, 'cause I've talked to the mayor every couple of months, every 6 weeks, I go in and have my Mara mayor time, and we go over his whiteboard, and I get a lot of answers to my questions. I knew 8 months ago that the price for this facility was gonna be $10 million. I mean, that was the number I had in my mind. So when it came in at 11, you know, considering inflation and materials and all that, I was not surprised. So those of you that are concerned about voting in the affirmative tonight, what is it that you don't have, or what concern do you have that we can't rectify now specifically with the consultant here?
What concerns me is, what are we giving up? Because we have a finite amount of money. We have a list, a partial list of things that we want.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a complete list. There are no roads on this list. There's a lot of uncertainty. Some of these things that were on this list are not actually correct. In the fact that, like, for instance, the quarry, Madison Utilities owns the actual quarry,
Right.
not the water rights,
Mm-hmm.
the quarry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the projects that was listed. So that's one of those things that there's more there than what is just simply stated in the list of things that we got.
When you say the quarry, they own the water and we own the land.
No, they own the quarry. The water and the land underneath it. You own the land around it,
Well, that's what I meant.
but they own the quarry.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
So, but there is some land around it that Madison Utilities owns.
But as for road projects, I mean, some, like the roundabout at Burr Green, are already in the works. The Balch project is already in the works. There are a lot of road projects. We finished up, Hughes, we finished up Sullivan. I don't mind personally taking a little bit of a break from road projects and orange barrels to give our residents, you know, an opportunity to not have an immediate construction site. So I think that Teddy and Steve and the mayor have all indicated the money is there. I mean, we could feasibly write a check tomorrow for $11 million. We don't have to do that. We're not, even though we're committing the $11 million, it's not tomorrow for the $11 million. It's, you know, money here, just like we did with the ballpark. We didn't do the money all at once. We did it in stages and piecemeal, and this is a 2, 3, 4-year project.
I understand. I've helped build several schools.
But
I
just
understand how
to clarify that too, you know, I did say write a check. That's after we transfer it out of our savings account.
Right.
Okay, so let's be fair about that, so.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions?
I wanna go last,
Go for it.
I can go before I vote or after I vote, it doesn't matter to me. I just don't wanna influence anybody's vote.
Okay. Well, I'm
All right, I'll go first.
I'm happy for everyone to explain their vote, and we'll give everyone ample opportunity to do that. But I think it's time to call for a vote. I think we've asked everyone the questions that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, we have a motion, by Councilmember Robleski and a second by Councilmember Seifert. And Lisa, we're ready for a vote.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert,
Aye.
Council President Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Nay.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Denzine.
I'm a yay, and my reasoning is if we vote no for yes, we are betting on the ability in the future to cover the cost to the city. And I believe that it'll be there. So that's why I'm voting yes.
You're voting yes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay. I
got
couldn't hear.
All right. We have an aye. All right. Now, anyone else who would like to speak in terms of their vote?
Yeah, so my reason for a nay is, quite honestly, I've always been driven by the amount of data that I get, and I just didn't receive the data that I needed. I'm concerned about a couple things. 1% contingency is just, I mean, scares me to death. There are absolutely no way you can do a change order. I mean, there's just not enough money there to do that. You will run into change orders in a remodel. It's just, that's, you know, if you were building something, maybe not, but you will run into those change orders. Secondly is, you know, we've been on council, I think, 6 years. In all of those 6 years, every single month that I've been on council, with the exception of 1, maybe 2 months in April or May during the pandemic, in the last 3 months, we've had single-digit increases. The economy is changing. And, you know, if I were at home and I had my credit card and had, you know, halfway there, not maxed out, but halfway, and I had my checking account and I had, you know, money to pay my bills, and then I had my savings account knowing that my job was fixing to cut my single-digit income down, I mean, my double-digit income down to single-digit, me at my house, I wouldn't draw that money out. But that's why I voted the way I did, and I think it's a great project. I think, you know, the citizens of Madison deserve it, and I look forward to seeing what it becomes. That's all I've got.
Anyone else like to explain their vote? I really want to thank everyone for being willing to be here, for a special called meeting. You all, are working extra in December. I appreciate all of you for being here for a really long work session. And we're gonna have more in the future, send me topics, but I'm gonna try not to double and triple load the work sessions, because please know, we're gonna hold them regularly. We're looking forward to that CIP list. I'm gonna try not to overwhelm you. I will tell you this, I've been working with our financial advisor, checking in on him every week, because as you can imagine, as we're getting prepared to go to the bond market, I'm watching rates, I'm watching where we're at. We're in a better place today than we were a month ago, in terms of the direction that rates are going. This is a good sign. It may be that even on Monday's meeting on the 12th, we may indeed, be able to give you information in terms of what we're able to do. And so we're working on that. When you look at the city of Madison, the other thing that I will say is that we're in probably the best position in terms of information that we have access to that a lot of people do not. We really have the thumb on the pulse of what's happening, and it's hard for ratings agencies to even grasp what's going on in North Alabama. So when it comes to this decision, this is a really hard decision. Partly because I would have preferred that council had been a part of the process of timing of the bid. And I would have preferred having more information and being able to weigh priorities. And I am hopeful that we're going to get that CIP list sooner than later. And I appreciate everyone who's asked for that. But when it comes to voting for this, what I feel is a lot of confidence in Madison. And even though Teddy's right, cash is king right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, but the first person I called was our finance director, Roger Bellamy, and I looked at what Mr. Smith had proposed, how we pulled the money out. Roger had differences. He had a different recommendation. He said, don't deplete your cash. You've got a lot of things you need to be prepared for. So he directed me to the debt service fund. Mr. Bellamy is a very conservative person in terms of how he advises this council. And he told me, we have the cash, we can do this. We're not prepared to go borrow money for a big project right now. But we do have the cash to do this, but it does reduce our options for other things that I think a lot of council members have interest in, and very legitimate ones. But I think we're in a good place. I think we recognize the value of our schools and what's drawing people here, and what's happening at Redstone Arsenal, and we're fortunate to be in the county that we are in. So we can ride through this storm, and that is why I voted the way I did. All right, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I say two things?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mayor. I didn't let you speak.
Well, I just want, I say that.
You don't get to vote.
Yeah, we've heard you loud and clear. Yeah, fair enough. We've heard you loud and clear CIP-wise. That will be the number one thing our office works on from now going forward. Secondly, I am still a strong believer that this community center will generate community interest, and that we will be able to come back to you within 6 months with very positive information that helps minimize the impact of the finances on the city. Lastly, in listening to you guys, we talked with John Howard. There is a 10 o'clock pre-bid meeting tomorrow for the bridge joint repair on Madison Boulevard, which is part of the Madison Boulevard project. So it's already part of the bid, but it's also something that we've got to look at. So there's a 10 o'clock pre-bid meeting tomorrow here in City Hall. So just giving you guys, and we're going to keep you updated on those as we go forward.
Real quickly, may I?
Sure.
The reason why I decided to vote yes on this was a couple of things. It's a shovel-ready project. It is something that we can do and start now. We do have time. I have confidence that we will see our revenues increase based on certain things that have happened lately. The new Publix, our agreement with the town Madison, when we get the bond issue, all of those things are positives. We did have a survey which did give us some community input. While this is not ideal, I do think it is the right answer for this moment.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. Oops, sorry.
We are adjourned. That was